This is lesson 11-4, triangles. Our essential question, how can you classify triangles? And we are going to be classifying them by their sides and their angles. So if you want to take a quick look at this picture, it will be very helpful to you. We do have some vocab. We have acute triangle, where all the angles are acute angles. A right triangle, one angle is a right or 90-degree angle. Obtuse triangle is where one angle is an obtuse angle. Equilateral triangle is where all sides are congruent. Isosceles triangle has at least two sides that are congruent. And a scalene triangle has no sides that are congruent. So example 1, we're going to label it as acute, right, or obtuse, and equilateral, scalene, or isosceles. In addition to that, we're also going to find the missing angle. So let's do that first. We have talked before about triangles, and we said they always need to add up to 180 degrees. So what I like to do is find my two angles that I know. In this case, it's 120 and 30, and I add those up, and I get 150. And then I can just subtract that from 180. So my missing angle is 30 degrees. Now let's label this triangle. So I see right here that this is an obtuse angle. It's greater than 90. So even if you have just one that's obtuse, it automatically makes your triangle an obtuse triangle. So there's one classification. Now we need to do by its sides. We need to label it by its sides. Now, these little tick marks, I'm going to call them tick marks, in the sides of a triangle, you're going to see them in other shapes also. That tells you that they're congruent. They are the same. You don't even have to measure it. Those little lines right there tell you that they are the same. So if I have two sides that are the same, that means it has to be isosceles, because isosceles triangles have two sides that are the same length. So this is an obtuse isosceles triangle. Example 2, let's find the missing angle first. Let's add up the two that we know, 60 and 60. Gives 120. We know it has to add up to 180 total, so let's subtract what we already have, and we get 60 degrees is our missing angle. Now let's go ahead and label this triangle. We have all three angles are 60 degrees, and I know 60 degrees is acute. It's smaller than 90. So this angle has to be acute because all of its angles are acute. And the last thing is to label it by its sides. You can see here all three sides have a tick mark. So that means they are all equal. So that makes this an equilateral triangle because all the sides are congruent. So it's an acute equilateral triangle with the missing angle of 60 degrees. Example number 3, let's first find the missing angle. So we know that when we see a little box like this, that means 90 degrees plus 42 is 132 degrees. Let's subtract that from the total, which we know is 180. And we get 48 degrees is the missing angle. Now let's go ahead and classify this triangle. We have a right angle, so we automatically know this is a right triangle. And also, now classifying by its sides, I don't see any tick marks anywhere. So that means that none of the sides are equal. So that means it has to be a scalene triangle. So this is a right scalene triangle with a missing angle of 48 degrees. And example 4, the missing angle, we have 70 and 70. So when we add those up, we get 140. Subtract that again from 180. So the missing angle is 40 degrees. Now, looking at my angles, I have 40, 70, and 70. All of those are acute angles. All of them are less than 90. So that means this is an acute triangle. Also, I see tick marks on 2 of the sides. That means those 2 sides are congruent. So that means this is an isosceles triangle. So we have an acute isosceles triangle with a missing angle of 40 degrees. Here are your 2 practice problems, doing the same thing. Find the missing angle, then tell if it's acute, right, or obtuse, and equilateral, scalene, or isosceles. Don't forget a word problem or question, and rate your understanding.